Hello and welcome to my Title IX website video series. This is video number 9, and I want to give you an example today of how important it is to communicate the right message. So in reviewing these websites, one stood out to me as particularly bad, and I'll tell you why. It was very difficult for me to find any information about the Title IX team. I couldn't find the Title IX coordinator's name or email address. It was all very generic information. So right then and there, it led me to believe that they didn't really have a good program. They didn't really care. So again, I wasn't in trauma, so I continued to research. I took additional steps. If I was a student who needed help, I would have just quit and gave up and not gone to the school for help. And I would have just either suffered in silence or found some sort of community resource to help. So every school has to publish their crime statistics, their Clery report. So I found the statistics for this school, the report that they had published, and I found the last 3 years, their crime statistics. And on their stats, they said that they'd had 0 sexual assaults, 0 rapes, 0 domestic violence incidents. In fact, they had 0 crime except for, I think there was 1 or 2 thefts, vehicle break-ins. And that was it. In 3 years, it's the safest place on earth, apparently. So I'm here to tell you that's absolutely false. Those stats are completely wrong. It is impossible that there was not one sexual assault or instance of dating violence or sexual violence on their campus in 3 years. 100% false information. And I'm sure the school was very proud of their statistics. They can go out to parents and say, send your children to our school because we are so safe. Look, nothing has happened here in 3 years. This is the safest place your child could ever be. And then when something bad happens and the parents are surprised and in shock, no one knows what to do. There's a causal relationship here. And I'm not going to mention the school. I'm not calling them out. I'm using them as an example. Their Title IX website was so bad and so void of information that any student who needed help couldn't get it. They couldn't find it. I had a hard time finding it, and I was doing a research project. I had all the tips and tricks. I had learned how to find them on all these different websites. They were in compliance, they had the basic information they needed, but they made it so difficult that there's no way that any student could report to them even if they wanted to. And so what are they communicating? They're communicating that having zeros in their stats is more important than actually helping victims of sexual violence. Having a 0 next to it so they could tell parents that it was a safe campus was more important than it actually being a safe campus. There's so much wrong with that, fundamentally. But going back to our question of what are you communicating, they were clearly communicating, we don't want to know. If it happened to you, we don't care. We don't want to know. In fact, please don't tell us because that'll ruin our stats. Now, I understand there are a lot of campuses that don't have residents, and so maybe a lot of the incidents happened, but happened off campus. I get that. But I guarantee you in 3 years, there are incidents of sexual violence. It is, unless there are no human beings on that campus, it happened. So their statistics are wrong, and it almost felt like it was deliberately so because it was so hard to find how to get help and who to go to if it happened to you. So that's an example of one of the worst I found. So in video number 10, the final video of our series, I'm going to give you a good example and talk about what you should look for in your website to make sure it is communicating the message you want to communicate.